Hey everybody, welcome to The Ticket. I'm Bobby Stapleton, Senior Director of Customer Support here at Intercom. Today I'm here with Mark Hughes, co-founder and CEO of SolidRoad. We're talking about all things training and quality assurance and how to consistently improve your customer experience, especially in this new AI world. Welcome to the show, Mark. Good to have you here, man.
Thank you very much for having me, Bobby. Delighted to be here.
So I was briefly trying to dig back through LinkedIn because I feel like you were an Intercom employee back in the day. I think we may have briefly overlaps. But I can't quite remember if we ever met each other or not.
Not too sure. It was my first job out of college in 2017, and I was there till the start of 2020. I think I've still close ties, lots of friends still there. My sister actually works there. So, yeah, keeping it in the family.
Love it. That's awesome. You're like you're here for Team Intercom.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like what does Solid Road do, and like what led you to focus on this area of customer service when you were starting your own company?
Yeah, so obviously my name is Mark. I'm the co-founder and CEO here at SolidRoad. What we are is an AI first training and quality assurance platform for customer experience teams. What that essentially means is there's two components to the product. We've built a conversation simulator, which allows CX agents to practice realistic conversations with AI customers. That can be live chat, email, video call, voice call, screen sharing, and receive personalized coaching and feedback on those interactions. So the use cases for that is really like screening candidates during interviews, reducing ramp time or time to proficiency, which is a term that CX people love to use, and then like upskilling, training, certification at scale. That's kind of like part one, kind of training. And then for QA and auto QA, we use the same custom scoring rubrics to score 100% of your customer interactions. So no longer having to manually audit 1-2% of all your chats, emails, calls. We can run it all through our system. And the thing that makes us quite different is we've connected the two components. So we can score your live interactions, find skill gaps, and then automatically create personalized training for those agents to improve. So yeah, that's a bit about what we do.
Hearing that description, it sounds so obvious when you show like you're like training and then QA. It's like those should be connected.
Yeah.
But I guess like it's not always obvious. Like, how did you tell me a bit about how you and the Solid Road team, like, how did you land on that? Like, what were you hearing from customers or kind of seeing in the customer support space to realize that those two things do belong together?
Yeah, I think even to take a step back, like, so I actually met my co-founder, Patrick, who was my co-founder and CTO at Intercom as well. So we both were very fond of like the CX space, and he enjoyed building products for that persona, and I love selling that persona. So it was always kind of like very close to our hearts. How the idea really came about was like, it was really like Mark and Patrick Inc. We wanted to start a company together, and then went through all the various different iterations to kind of eventually land on something we loved and wanted to build. I think the where it stemmed from was my last company connected students and graduates with mentors to help them make their first or land their first job, transition from college to company. And the one thing I always used to hear is like, oh, these people are great, but like, can they get continued training when they come into the company? And we were like, no, it was really just kind of a recruitment platform. So it was always kind of like thought about how it would be great to have that like personalized, it's like personalized training, personalized coaching at scale. And that's kind of where we started digging. We're like, well, like AI is perfect for this. How can we build that like AI coach in people's pockets? Started with a few different kind of verticals and industries, and initially started with sales and found like a bit of interest there for like role play training for sales. But it was actually fairly serendipitous that we got introduced to a large contact center, and they're like, oh my God, this is amazing. We hire hundreds of agents in our offshore locations every day of the week. We could use this for screening them. We could use this for reducing time to proficiency, continuous training. They might be working multiple accounts in these BPOs. So it's like, okay, wow, like that kind of, it was like market pull where people were actually pulling it out of our hands. So we kind of like lent in there to like the BPO space to begin with. And then it was like, how do BPOs work with software vendors like Intercom, like SolidRoad? It's normally the clients they work with tell them, we use Intercom, so you have to use Intercom. So it's like, actually, we need to get to that person. And then kind of made our way, like meandered our way to like, okay, the VP of operations, the head of customer experience, these are the people we need to go after. So they can actually turn around to their 5 BPO vendors and say, use SolidRoad across all your locations. Yeah, so I think that's the kind of long-winded version of how we got there. And now, really, since we've kind of narrowed and kind of honed our ICP, we're also working with kind of any fast-growing company in the CX space. And the kind of, I'm trying to think, the best way to put it is like a fast-growing company with 10,000 tickets or more, or 10,000 conversations or more, is deploying a deflection agent and maybe has one or two BPO partners. That's like the sweet spot. And it's actually quite amazing how big the TAM is just for that.
You're like, all these things actually really come together.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, and especially, and we'll probably get into this a bit more, but like, especially now in this world of AI agents where like my team has now hit like above a 75% resolution rate, which I thought was going, you know, I was wrong, but I thought it was going to be impossible. And it's like, that's great and awesome. But now the conversations that are landing with our human team, like there's no easy ones. There's no like wading into the pool and working your way over. It's like, well, welcome to the team, and you just like shove into the deep end, even with like the best of like intentions and training, and the tools and technology haven't quite caught up with that. And so the idea of like, no, actually, like here's how to be able to simulate something, or to get some of those practice reps in, seems really vital for the future.
Yeah. And it's super interesting. Like we're seeing like we work with companies that are getting the 60 to 75% deflection from the likes of a Fin, but their team sizes are remaining the same and like even growing in parts. But it's a case of, like you said, it's like tier one support is basically gone. It's gone to the bots, it's gone to the AI agents. And like tier two, tier three is what even more important now, because every conversation is like an escalated conversation before. It's a lot more difficult, requires a bit more time. But I think it's super exciting because it's almost like conversation volumes are increasing because it's like more, it's actually easier to get in contact with a company, which is great. Gone are the days of like, you're on hold for how long? It's like, no, you can speak to an AI agent, be it voice, text immediately. And then if you need that escalation, there's a human there on the other side, and the human actually has the time. They're not stressed that they have like hundreds of conversations going at once. They're like really can actually give you that time and attention. And that's what great customer experience looks like. But as you said, it's not as easy then for them to work their way up and kind of get some reps in with a few forgot your passwords. It's like we're working with kind of large companies that like it might be financial services, trust and safety conversations, really difficult conversations that you don't want to have on your first day, and being able to get those reps in and kind of in the simulated environment improve and see, because there's so much changes in business right now as well. Like everyone's launching new features, new pricing, new packaging. We find that it's like we're hearing a term of everboarding, that companies aren't just they're always constantly looking to upskill over time.
You touched on it a bit there, but is there anything else on your mind with training? You know, training's always been important, but like, has its role changed at all now that now that AI is more in the mix? And what kind of training is most crucial for teams today?
Yeah, so especially for customer facing teams, getting practice we think is the most important piece. And like theoretical learning is very mundane and boring, but it's still amazing how many companies we speak to that are doing manual role play training, manual classroom based learning in cohorts, and maybe sending people to an LMS when like you have this magic box of AI over here that's like, it can do some pretty crazy stuff. So I think like making things more immersive, more realistic, is where we think the future is. And like I said, it's like personalized training at scale. It no longer has to be generic slides, generic presentations, peer-to-peer role plays. Or I think the one thing that everyone's kind of seeing is like the efficiency gains with AI. That's the main thing that we can see. So it's like, it's very easy to quantify the value of our tool, because we can say like, okay, before you use SolidRoad, how long were you spending like manual hours training reps? And like, it's crazy. And like, there's some companies saving like hundreds of hours each week. That they used to be like, how many people had to come from enablement from training to like run in-person sessions or sessions over Zoom, where it's like very much like set it and forget it now. And also the amount of training people can do has increased as well.
Yeah, and to your point, it's like breaking down the old ways of thinking about training. Like, it doesn't just have to be, here's the deck that we run through, or like, these are the points that we have to hit with AI. If you are able to tell, it's like, hey, this, new teammate Bobby, he really understands these reporting questions, but he's having a harder time with these like workflow logic based questions. Like, let's invest, let's have that guidance happen there automatically, or the role plays like lean on that, like that dynamicism, if that's a word, is it's just like a totally new way to be thinking about it.
Yeah. And I think like at the end of the day, if you work in CS, like you need to be good at speaking to customers. Like that's the kind of the main part of your job, being empathetic, active listening, all those kind of soft skills are super important, as well as the process adherence, especially if you're in kind of regulated industries. But like we can do is we can actually like send a candidate, like your entire talent pool simulation. They can take that voice simulation, chat simulation, whatever it might be, as part of the interview process. The manager can then see, okay, this person's really good at taking customer conversations. And I always say, like, even from my experience of working in sales and managing sales teams, like you'll always find diamonds in the rough where you look at their CV, they studied history, and then you'll hear them on the phones. You're like, oh my God, this person's amazing. Whereas like you can find those people, you can increase your talent pool because you maybe wouldn't have brought them through to the next stage. But then also in like larger contact center environments, what we're seeing is like a massive reduction in managed attrition, because these people are normally coming into a contact center. They're getting weeks of classroom learning, training, onboarding, nesting. Week 12, you're on the phones. They pick up the phones. They're like, this is not for me. Phone down. I'm out of here. How much money's been wasted on that employee? So being able to like manage the journey from entering the company. So basically, we're seeing companies where they'll use SolidRoad to vet these candidates. They'll get them into the company. Then day one, rather than saying, oh, we're going to do a bit of shadowing, you're going to look at some slides. Like, no, like you're going to take some conversations. They're going to be quite easy, but like you're actually going to see what kind of conversations we have with our customers from day one in this kind of sandbox risk-free environment. They do that for their entire onboarding. They then get on the phones. We're then scoring all their phone calls, finding skill gaps, and then weekly being like, Joe, you fell down on this process adherence this week, or you fell down on your empathy, and here's your training for the week. And it's like cyclical in the sense of like, yeah, continuously in solid. And that's what we want.
That's it. So I know SolidRoad focuses on both human and AI agent training. So can you elaborate a bit on the unique challenges that go into AI agent training and the strategies required to effectively do that, basing that on customer interactions?
Yeah, it's a great question. So everything we built is around like the flywheel is this scoring system or like scorecard, and how you can build custom scorecards in SolidRoad. They can be skills based, they can be process based, they can be graded marking, pass, fail, exclusion criteria, automatic fails, all that stuff. We put so much time and attention into getting the scorecard right. And then the scorecard is what determines like your human interactions and your AI agent interactions as well. So by evaluating every single conversation, we're seeing what we're seeing is like these AI agents almost as like a member of the team. So like Finn is like a member of the team, and being able to benchmark performance against like, where should we be sending conversation volume? Like, are there certain conversations that are better suited to AI agents? Are there certain conversations that are better suited to human agents? And by being that aggregation layer that sits on top of your communication channels, we can basically score everything and provide those benchmarks of like where you should send the conversation volume. So that's the way we're looking at it right now. But yeah, everything's changing so much. So to kind of answer the question, it's almost like these AI agents are an extension of the team, or a team member, like Mark is being scored, Sin is being scored.
I feel like you hit the nail on the head there, that thinking about AI agent training, it shouldn't be like, how am I managing this software tool? Like, yes, of course it's software, but support leaders are almost better off thinking it's like, I need to train and manage and invest in this almost in the same way that I would an actual human teammate, because that's how the AI works, or like those processes that you have in place are going to be best suited to support that too. So cool to kind of hear you emphasize that.
Yeah. And it's super interesting because like people are really interested, and even like in the last 6 months, we're seeing more companies bring these AI agents online. And like, whereas it never came up in a conversation 6 months ago, it's like, oh, can you actually score the AI agent as well? And we want to see how that's performing against this team in this location. And it's like, we want to see how our BPO is doing over here, our in-house team is doing here, and our AI agent is doing over here. it's wild, but very, very cool.
And this drifts into the quality space, but like, how do you ensure these like AI driven training tools, of course, they're accelerating the team's ability to answer, but how are they also improving answer quality or improving the empathy that the team's delivering?
Yeah. So to be honest, like it's super interesting because you'll probably see yourselves at Intercom as well. No matter who takes the conversation, the metrics still remain the same. So people care about CSAT, quality score, average handling time. These are the things that they have to like bring back to the board and say like these metrics are going up, these metrics are going down. So similar ways that like all our case studies and testimonials around like we started using SolidRoad, and the obvious one is we save lots of time, which is great. Time is money, time is cost. But then like an uptake in CSAT scores, quality scores, reduction in average handling time, just because our human reps are more confident and they're not taking much time to answer the conversation. So I'd say it's quite similar to what you see on the success metrics. Uh,
Gotcha.
but we also have like trend lines, and like we're trying to gamify it as much as possible. Like you're on the solid road where it's almost like I think it's like trail finders or something they call it in Salesforce, where you kind of make your way to different levels of
Yeah.
expertise. That's something we're trying to work towards there. It's like you start on day one and your whole journey is being mapped in solid road, and you're seeing your kind of empathy score go up week on week, and your different sections of those scorecards improve. So like trend lines are already built into like the learner profiles, as we call them, in the reporting tab. So like learners can see, admins can see, hopefully agents going to the right.
And I imagine support leaders listening to this, watching this, they may be thinking like, okay, Mark, like that all sounds great, but like for my customers, they view empathy this way, or like we here at whatever company, we view quality this way. Like, have you found that there are the bespoke requirements across customers, or is there more similarities across the board? And like empathy is empathy, or like a quality answer is a quality answer, whether it's a giant call center or a small company. Like, yeah, what have you kind of learned about some of those some of those parts of the interaction?
Yeah, so I'd probably divide them into two buckets. There's like one bucket of customer where it's like we have our own custom scoring rubric. They'll send it to us. We'll automatically parse it into the system. We have a calibration tool where we can go thumbs up, thumbs down until we get to the place where like they're really happy with it. Like what we can do is like say they're not happy with it, thumbs down. We'll then suggest a change to the prompt. Prompt will change within the scorecard. We'll run it a few more times. Okay, we're happy with that. I'm like they're in the bucket of everything needs to be custom. This is what we think empathy is. This is what we think this is. That's fine. Like they can absolutely do that. And then there's actually the other bucket where it's like, you guys have any templates? Like we're not really good at this. We don't have a scorecard. I think it's in Excel somewhere, or someone has a PDF. I don't know. We're kind of doing it manually. It's all like like Mary runs QA and she's just been here for 10 years. So she just knows what good looks like. And she just like, she ticks the box. So they actually rely more on us like, oh, this is what we're seeing other customers do. And we do have like templates in our library that people can pull from and then edit or tweak accordingly.
That's really cool. Yeah, having offering that kind of guidance from the get-go, that like recipe is yeah, is that's a super smart product idea. I'm sure people find it helpful. Uh yeah, like shifting gears here, I imagine that like building and supporting an AI product isn't easy. Like we see that supporting Fin. There's lots of questions, or people want to understand like why a certain answer was one way, or why it didn't reference one thing. Um, and yeah, I've seen you publicly share that you spend a lot of time talking to your customers. And so like what are some of the key considerations that you're thinking about for like how do you support an AI product?
Yeah, it's a great question, and we definitely haven't completely cracked it, but we kind of like to see ourselves as customer first, and like the team's pretty split. We're still a team of 8 people, and it's like 4 on GTM, 4 on product. So everyone's kind of involved in every deal we close and every customer we have. I know there's like the coin term of forward deployment engineer. There's a lot of that where it's like
Mhm.
we'll have to bring engineers on the deal to kind of explain why things are happening. It was funny, like anecdotally speaking, I was speaking to my co-founder and CTO Patrick last night, or I was just talking about like a bug. He's like, "That's not a bug. Like that's actually like a product request." I'm like, "Oh, like." He's like, "Bugs are bad code. Like this is someone requesting something that is not in the product yet." I'm like, "Okay, cool, fair enough." So it's like very difficult to decipher between the two right now because yeah, people want. I think the good analogy I'd use is like everyone wants AI to be 100% accurate, but when you actually can frame it as like better than or as good as your humans, that works in our favor as well. It's like, well, like, is there a case where your manual QA you're doing right now, is there a few mistakes there? Yeah, there is. Okay, well, like, then understandably there's gonna be a few mistakes here. I think it's almost like trying to shift people's understanding to say, like, well, it's not gonna be 100% accurate, but it's going to be a lot better than what you have in place, and it's going to be cheaper, and it's going to be faster, et cetera, et cetera. But to actually answer your question, we've done a lot of like on sites with our bigger customers in particular, where we'll like fly to them, sit down for a few days, and the learnings have been crazy. We also offer weekly office hours as well, so we have a customer success manager who will like sit down. We'll bring in engineers. I'll join those calls where I can. Um, and it's been super helpful.
No, like that comparison to humans is like really accurate. Like we would when like for QA, like even getting 10 people in a room and being like, okay, we're all going to review the same conversation. And you're right, like 10 of us might have 6 or 7 different opinions, like what went well versus what didn't in that one conversation. And so it's like, we can't agree on this, but yet we're going to criticize the AI's ability to not like get it right. It's like, well,
Yeah.
well, right.
Yeah, exactly.
And try, yeah, reframing, kind of reframing the bar. And like, I think there's like, yeah, there's a bit of like I don't know, like a learning curve and like it sounds cliche, but like a journey to go on with customers with that. Like you're not going to convince anybody by just being like, well, it's better than what a person would do. It's like truly trying to understand. It's like, well, what part of it is important to you? Or like, yeah, how does this look in your existing team with your humans? And like, okay, how can we kind of compare this to an AI agent or an AI product? And actually, at that point, it's, you can see it's actually pretty good. So, um, love that. And then, yeah, cool to just hear that connection with customers. Do you find that like the customer needs, do they differ quite a bit versus somebody who's like just starting out versus folks that have been on the platform for a while?
Yeah. So I think sometimes I envy companies who are like building for a particular vertical. I think like with Fin and with SolidRoad, it's like very broad, which is great in one essence, but the other essence is like sometimes I wish we were like building just for banks or just for automotive because like they'd have similar problems. So what can happen is like you said, like things can be coming in different product requests that aren't really they're not that similar. So that's something that we have to like prioritize, I suppose. And like there's different ways that we do that. Um, and yeah, we definitely haven't completely figured that out either on like a product development process side of things. But I think we're getting there. We're getting better. We're seeing more lookalike customers, which is always a good sign. And with those customers, they are similar requests coming in. And I think from the sales side of the house, I could definitely be helping the product guys out more. Whereas I'm like trying to sell to anyone and everyone. Whereas like if we could actually focus on customers that with the existing product right now are going to pull it out of our hands, it makes life a lot easier. Um, they kind of adding to the roadmap is like, this person wants this request, this request. It's almost like becomes a bit of like order taking. But yeah.
Yeah, that's like I asked because we see some of that, like you said here with Finn, where and again it's like Paul Adams, our chief product officer, talks about this where like the old days of just like making a 6-month roadmap like just doesn't work anymore. Like technology is changing so quickly, the needs are changing so much that you have to have that direct kind of line to customers, and so it's that blend of like, okay, yeah, like I'm hearing you need this order taking, is this right for everybody, but like it's hard to know, so let's figure it out. Like just a completely kind of different world for building these days.
Yeah, like I think we tried to do road mapping, then it was like 2 week product roadmaps, and yeah, it's just product sprints now, and they're getting smaller and smaller.
Awesome. You touched on this a bit earlier, but I want to go back to like, how do you measure the return on investment of a better quality assurance or better training? And yeah, not just in the CSAT and customer experience space, but especially like on the team's performance or in team retention. Like, what are some of those ROIs that you and customers are looking at?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, like the kind of the like we have an ROI calculator on our website. But like the main one is like the efficiency gains on time saving is crazy. For you no longer need 20 QA analysts reviewing 3% of your conversation volume. You no longer need an enablement or training team of 10 people. So there can be less headcount costs, is a big one. And then what we have on our website, it's like increasing customer satisfaction while reducing costs is kind of the big thing. So like uptick in CSAT quality scores, but actually reducing costs. Yeah, they're kind of the main ones. Like there's more anecdotal ones where it's like our team feel a lot more confident in their jobs. Yeah, kind of more subjective ones that we hear on the daily. Like getting the risk-free practice is really important to them, etc. And also, like you touched on it earlier, but like the objective nature of the feedback as well, because like some managers give coaching and feedback differently to others. Like you're going to go quite easy for doing like peer-to-peer coaching, where it's like everyone's being graded by the same AI coach essentially. So there's less complaining. And also in QA as well, like there's so many examples of like, because it used to be random sampling, it's like you could tell. So like we have so many examples from customers where it's like reps feel like they're being picked on. It's like, oh, you picked a bad call. That's why that's a bad, like, I mean, that's why you're giving out to get this. Where it's like, no, like we full coverage on everything. So like we can see exactly what's going on. Or like things that people have been saying on the phone for 3 months, be like, a person like shouldn't be saying that, but it only gets caught 3 months later when that random sample's pulled. Yeah. So yeah, the kind of coverage piece as well, which is a bit more difficult, but like it's like just the coverage of conversations is the big one as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting way to think about it. And yeah, like I think about my team and we did a survey where we were like, okay, we're gonna have some more out of the inbox time of all the different areas and investments we could make. Where like we just wanted to ask them the question of like, what would be the biggest boost for you for just like employee experience? And everyone was like, we want more training. Like training is the one thing. Like products changing all the time. The type of questions are getting harder. Like we just like want more training. And so I imagine like having this type of tool is just and like the impact on teammate engagement. Well, it's the right thing to do, but then has that like positive impact then to trickle through to your customers and stuff too.
Yeah, 100%. And I think like you said there's so many CS orgs that are investing in AI agents to take conversations. If I'm sitting there as a CS rep and there's no investment being made in me as a person, no training, no development, then I'm going to be looking, being like, what am I doing here? Like all this investment's going into like essentially taking my job. But if they're run side by side, where it's like, yeah, we've got Finn taking 75% of the conversations. We know the conversations are more difficult for you. We have you now in SolidRoad every day to ensure you're getting better. We can see you're improving, like performance tracking that way. Like I'm going to feel as an employee that like I'm being invested in, and it's not just a case of like bots coming for my job.
Yeah, it's not just like you're here until we get the bot to where it needs to be. Like this is like an all in it together. Very well said. So how are top performing support orgs rethinking onboarding and that ongoing training kind of in light of AI capabilities? Anything that we haven't touched on yet?
Nothing really that we haven't touched on. Obviously, I'm gonna be biased, so the best ones use SolidRoad, obviously. But no, it's really I think people are looking for like I said, more training, more personalized training because conversations are getting a lot more difficult. Um, and more practical ways of training as well that aren't just really kind of static learning. The best companies we see are really embracing AI. So they want to bring AI into their company and to improve their team performance and aren't afraid of it or skeptical. I think they're the companies that are going to win out at the end of the day. The companies that are bringing on Finn, that are bringing on SolidRoad and bringing on 10 other tools that are going to give a better customer experience.
Big time. Yeah, and it's we were doing transformation reports at the start of the year and like comparing even just a year ago, the number of people that were like, well, is this just a fad? We'll see where it goes to just it's like I mean, these days, I can't imagine anybody not paying attention or having some form of an AI strategy. Uh, Definitely seems like, yeah, it's the way to go. And especially in this space like training and QA, where, we have the CX score as part of the Intercom product, where it's doing an overview of the customer experience across all of the conversations, but it doesn't delve into that like teammate performance, right? Like there's some attributes built in, but it's not quite the same as like a QA scorecard. And so to again have that coverage to be like, hey, Bobby's been saying the wrong thing for 3 months, or using the wrong process, like, yeah, this wrong process or workflow from day one, like having that type of coverage across everything. I'm sure in just a very short amount of time, I'd be like, I can't imagine ever doing it just off of a small sample size anymore.
Yeah, here's hoping.
Awesome. Okay, well, I have a two-part closer here for you. So, any parting advice for the support leaders listening here, especially again with this shift to AI first support? And then second part, like, what are you and the SolidRoad team focused on next?
Yeah, so to answer the first question, I think it's like just as I was alluding to there, it's like really embrace AI, lean into it, speak to multiple vendors, test loads of different solutions, kind of attend AI events. There's like a lot of stuff going on that's super interesting. I was at the Intercom event a few months ago now in London. Like it was just like a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz, but like also lots of great conversations and people being able to kind of like share advice because it's new to everyone. So yeah, I think just like lean in would be my advice there. Because it's new to everyone and we're all trying to figure it out. And by being early here, you're gonna accelerate your career as a CX leader, no doubt. And the second part, what are we working on next? Yeah, great question. We're looking to really like increase the amount of integrations we have. That's been a big thing. We're lucky that we're integrated with Intercom, and Intercom are a great partner, sending us customers and referrals and stuff like that. But really, to be that kind of aggregation layer, we need to connect with all your customer communication channels. So that's a big push for us as well. We're also turning on software simulations, so like tool simulations, because a lot of like a CX agent's job is going to be around like obviously having the conversation, but like updating the billing admin and changes in the CRM, all that stuff. So we're working on that as well, which we're excited by. Yeah, and then whatever customers come to us and request over the coming months.
Those software simulations sound really cool, because it's one thing to be like, okay, how do I take I'm thinking about my teams, like one thing to like take a conversation in Intercom. It's another thing to be able to like give the training for writing up a GitHub issue or doing those things in other tools. Or so that's that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Mark, it was so awesome to have you here. Thanks again for making time. And yeah, we'll definitely have to have you back on the ticket to hear about you and all the awesome work. So appreciate it, man.
Super. Thank you very much for having me, guys.